sequel 123 of the Church of Uganda at 150 years a celebration. In this sequel, KABAREGA'S murder and cover-up in April 1923. Welcome. The Bunyoro Kingdom arranged in early April 1923 that Mpumudde travels to Mpumwire or Mpumudde near Jinja to secretly pay homage to Omukama Kabarega. Remember, seeing Kabarega was restricted by the Provincial Commissioner East at Jinja, who issued permits to those who he authorized to visit. Now, in April 1923, Mpumudde did not seek for the permit, but traveled. Why? To hand over the throne and pay allegiance to his father, Akana Kabarega. Immediately upon doing so, Bunyoro would be alerted and the entire kingdom would rise up in rebellion until Akana Kabarega would be allowed to return. Now, Governor Geoffrey Asher promised that in 90 days, Akana Kabarega would be in Bunyoro. That promise was rejected by the Bunyoro secretary, not openly, secretly. And so, Mpumudde began to travel, but secretly, on his way to Mpumwire or Mpumudde Hill. Unfortunately, the police was able to trace him, and they traced him on the 6th of April, 1923, on his way. Now, the police were ordered not to arrest him, and I'm talking about the Colonial Protectorate Police. They were ordered not to arrest him, as that would provoke a riot in Hoima. Intelligence had already informed the the British government of what was happening in Bunyoro. Intelligence had already informed the Protectorate government of what Bunyoro was planning. However, in order not to ignite it, they left Omukama to continue with his journey on the 6th of April 1923. However, very late in the evening, the British Protectorate sent a very senior medical officer, Dr. Van Someren, and according to me, the name appears to be German. V-A-N-S-O-M-E-R-E-N, Dr. Van Someren. He was ordered to go and attend, according to the documents in the National Archives National Archives of Uganda, he was ordered to go and attend to Akana Kabarega at Mpumwire that very evening. And so he did. The documents show that he did. His own report, although they are in German, show that he did. He reports what happened. Because after midnight, he was still in the house at Mpumwire, and that now becomes the 7th of April. But now the British government sticks to the 6th, and yet this doctor told the attendants after midnight, that's when he declared Akana Kabarega dead. Now, very early in the morning, Andrea Duhaga arrives in Jinja, is directed to Mpumwire Hill, and is very ready to hand over the regalia and the crown to his father. But what does he find at Mpumwire? The dead body of his father. The official Uganda Herald, volume 18, number 559, published not daily, but regularly. So the one that came up on the 13th of April, almost a week later, is the one that announced the death of Kabarega on page 12. That is now the official announcement. And it reported that he had died on the night of Friday, 6th April, not 7th, as the attendants say. Now, I want to quote, because these documents are at the National Archives, I want to quote what the Herald reported. "We regret to announce the death of Kabarega, the ex-Omukama of Bunyoro, who has recently returned from the Seychelles where he was retained as a political prisoner. He was not very well when he arrived at Jinja, suffering from the effects of a long journey in his old age. It is to be regretted that he had not returned to his real home in Hoima, and that he got no further than the foreign territory of Busoga. But it is some consolation that the brave old man did not die in exile, but during his last long journey to the home of his ancestors. End of quote of this Uganda Herald newspaper. Now, the newspaper is lying about several things. The time of death. The newspaper is also lying. He was not on a long journey to his home. He was on his final destination, where he was to die from sooner or later. And why am I saying this? Because I dug in the documents of the National Archives, and I want to share with you what I found. The cause of death is called effects of a long journey by an old man. Now, one would ask, was he sick? The answer is no. Did he have a condition? The answer is no. So he was just tired. Somebody who came all the way, rested in Mombasa, then also traveled, rested from February when he arrived in Jinja. Now they are in April. The old man is still very tired, and is so tired that he must die. And indeed he dies. Now, I dug, and this is what I found. That this plan had been made decades, almost a decade earlier. I landed on a letter dated 14th March 1912 from the Protectorate Provincial Commissioner East Jinja to the Protectorate Chief Secretary. Now, this letter shows that there was a plan for the return of Kabarega as early as 1911. And he was advising that Kabarega should never be allowed to Bunyoro, because he would undermine the influence of King of Umukama and Yaduhaga, and that his presence would have an effect on members of the royal family. The provincial commissioner was therefore suggesting that Kabarega should be settled at Jinja, because that was not accessible to the natives of Bunyoro, and it would be easier to regulate the number of visitors. Now, if there is such a letter 10 years earlier, how do you tell me that the governor was truthful in his saying that Akana Kabarega, who after 90 days would be allowed back in Bunyoro? And no wonder the Bunyoro themselves did not agree, and they had other things on their head, although they were, I think, betrayed by detectives, and the British got to know what they were planning. Now, there is also another correspondence which I discovered. It was dated 10th. It was dated the 10th of April 1923. Now, that is 3 days later after the death. It was from the Protectorate Provincial Commissioner Jinja. He was writing to the Chief Secretary at Entebbe. And what does he have to say? He says that the medical officer, Dr. Van Someren, attended to Akana Kabarega, and instructions for embalming were made sufficiently to him, and he embalmed the body to keep it fine for 3 months. Yeah, for 3 months. Now, what is happening in this letter is confirmation of this German doctor, confirmation of instructions to embalm. Normally, people who are injected lethal injections, their body reacts. The body reacts, the body shows. So the first thing in a cover-up is always to embalm. So no wonder the body is immediately embalmed. You kill all the evidence. There was also another letter. Now this one is much, much later, on the 27th of April, 2023. Actually, Kabarega was buried on the 26th, so this letter is coming, is written on the 27th, the day after the burial. And it says, the Protectorate Provincial Commissioner at Masindi is writing to the Protectorate Assistant Secretary of Native Affairs at Entebbe, and is saying, let me quote, you see, there was a report going around that Kabarega had died of starvation, not being able to get his milk. So we had to contradict that rumor before it reached out to other districts. End of quote. Now, this is another proof that the British Protectorate had no intention of seeing Kabarega return to Bunyoro. Why? They were on a deliberate diet, denial of a specific diet that will make him weak, sick, and eventually die. Perhaps in those very 90 days. So you see, there was a longer strategy. There was a longer strategy for his death. However, this did not happen, and Dr. Van had to be called in, Van Someren, to do the job on the very evening before the arrival of Andrea Duhaga and what he would have done and the situation in Hoima as it would have evolved. So yes, the two documents have proof. The proof of elimination by Dr. Van Someren, and also the longer strategy of denying him his diet is also proven in writing. Why? This officer is telling the other officer that they are trying to contradict that rumor before it reaches elsewhere. Now, of course, he's calling it a rumor. Haven't we had enough of the versions, therefore? The 84-year-old, therefore, dies. He has been denied of his beloved milk. But finally, on the eve of a secret arrival of his own son, a medical doctor is instructed there, who after midnight declares Kabarega dead. But the date is altered to be the very evening, because that makes more sense. Why would he have been in Mpumwire for so many hours? There was work to do, the cover-up, the embalmment. Chapter 20 of the book of Exodus describes how God, after 2 days of preparation, appeared, the preparation by the children of Israel, appeared on the top of Mountain Sinai to talk to them. And he pronounced in his own voice, thundering, the 10 commandments. And among them was one which said, that thou shalt not kill. Brethren, the British colonialists, the Protectorate Government officers, who confessed the Christian faith for which the missionaries had brought to Uganda, committed the act. And therefore, as we celebrate the church history of 150 years, we should also be able to notice where we failed, where we bent so low. May the good Lord bless us all.